Hello, my dear students. In this flip class, I will discuss about the most important concept of database, which is known as transaction. So we'll discuss number one, transaction concepts, and then it is followed by ACID properties. So let us start with transaction. Program in execution is called transaction. It is generally used to access and modify database. We know that if we want to deal with database, we can perform four major operations on it. Number one, either to access or to retrieve information from the database. Number two, to insert information into the database. Number three, to delete information from the database. Or number four, to modify or to update information into the database. So a program in execution is called transaction. Let us understand it with the help of a very simple example. In a bank, suppose we want to transfer an amount from one account to another. So this is an example of transaction. Suppose we have two accounts, account A and account B, and we want to transfer rupees 5,000 from account A to account B. So this process is basically known as a transaction. The main purpose of transaction is to avoid conflict, if any, that exist among transactions, and these transactions may be executed either serially or may be executed concurrently. The important property of transaction is known as ACID properties. A stands for atomicity, C stands for consistency, I stands for isolation, and D stands for durability. So number one, atomicity. Atomicity states that either transaction should be executed completely or not at all. It means it depends on either all or none. So suppose if we want to switch on the light, so on a switchboard we have a key switch through which we will either switch on the light or we will either switch off the light. There is no state that exists in between, right? Number two is called consistency. Transaction must be in consistent state. It means that before execution of a transaction and after execution of transactions, the value that exists in a database must be in consistent state. It should not be vary. It should not be vary at all, right? Number three is called isolation. So isolation states that when one transaction is executed, then it will not affect on another transaction or another transaction. So we know that transaction may be either executed serially, it means one after another, or transaction may be executed concurrently, means parallelly. So when one transaction is executed at the same time, no other transaction should be affected by first transaction and vice versa, right? And last is called durability. Durability states that once the transaction has committed, once we have saved the transaction, then even if failure occur, that failure may occur due to any reason, either hard disk may crash, networking fail, or RAM fail. The database should not be affected at all. It means database should remain stable or durable even after failure due to any reasons that occurs in database. So that's all about transactions, my dear friends.